perfect game against the #1 seed from group stage. That's SKT's level right now.
저희 팀이 아직 우승하지 못한 대회가 MSI 하나밖에 없고 이번 MSI 결승은 꼭 우승할 것 같아요.
You know, David versus the Goliath. Are we going to be better than SKT? And I think we can do it, but again, it just depends on if we come there to play as a team.
IEM 우승과 롤챔스에서 딱 우승했을 때가 정말 뜻깊은 추억이었고 아마도 MSI에서도 우승하게 되면 그게 제일 좋은 추억이 될 것 같습니다.
And maybe they've been seen as the best team for so many years, but the only thing that matters is today, when we go up on that stage and we play, that we're the better team.
Counter Logic Gaming will face SKTelecom T1 in the mid-season Invitational Finals for both teams to get their chance at the championship win.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the League of Legends Mid-Season Invitational Finals, where only 2 contenders remain. Fans have packed the Oriental Sports Center to see which of these teams will bring home the MSI Championship. And earlier we got a look at some cosplayers as well as fans across the arena. SKT, of course, heading inside, and Faker leading the charge. Aframu and the rest of CLG looking to challenge our reigning world champions here on stage today in a best-of-5. And before we dive into the matchup at hand, we're going to head on stage with the LPL's Rendong to meet our finalists.
来到上海，你现在正在收看的是2016英雄联盟季中冠军赛的总决赛的比赛现场。今天的话呢，两支队伍将会最终在这个舞台上角逐出谁将捧起象征着荣耀的奖杯。今天首先我要介绍的队伍也是本次大赛表现非常出色，来自 LCK 赛区的王者，让我们欢迎的就是 SKT。
A team that has no unfamiliarity with being on a stage of this degree. The international stage and in the finals, more than comfortable operating in a best-of-5 is this squad.
接下来让我们介绍的就是大魔王中路 Faker。
Big support for Faker.
同样，本次比赛表现十分出色的下路 Ben。
Many eyes will be on him in the mid lane, but of course he has that supporting cast. Very stellar members behind him.
Yeah, Wolf is ready for someone out there.
The support battle will be very interesting today when you look at Wolf versus Aframu and Koma, of course, as we've mentioned many times, widely considered to be the best coach in the world when it comes to League of Legends, standing behind them on stage.
CLG.
And their challengers, actually the higher seed coming into this best-of-5, but many would consider them the underdogs in this battle.
Yeah, and if they have any hope today, Darshan really does have to step up in that top lane. You know, someone we've had eyes on all tournament long.
Now they're stone cold. Who he's got to step up to. CLG always stone cold during intros.
Stixay, though, when you look at the rookies who has really stepped up, players are saying he's the best AD carry in the tournament.
And maybe the best support next to him as well. Afro has had a career tournament.
And really making a name for himself as a leader in this tournament. Aframu cementing his place in the the annals of League of Legends history. And there it is, one last look at the MSI trophy, what these teams are battling for on top of regional pride and the ability to call themselves the best team in the world as of yet in this season. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm James Dash Patterson, anchoring the analyst desk, where I'm joined by Mitch Crepo Vorspools, Jake Spawn Tiberi, and Joshua Jat Leesman. Gentlemen, we've made it to the final day of MSI, 2 whole weeks here in the Oriental Sports Center in Shanghai. It's been an incredible event so far.
Yeah, it certainly has been. And, teams showing up to play. I think everyone expected SKT to be one of the last teams standing, but CLG being able to make it to a date with them is definitely big news for the North American scene.
Yeah, and I'm really looking to see how well they can do against SKT, right? Because not many people are really expecting them to win other than CLG themselves, because they're coming in with a lot of confidence. But I just want to see if they can maintain their level of play, keep up the champion picks they've been able to go for it, and just give them a great tournament.
Yeah, close games and maybe one game taken off SKT for me would already be a victory for North America here in this tournament, because CLG, they exceeded all expectations, and the biggest thing for me is that they managed to play two different styles and make both work, and that is something where a lot of critics in the past said CLG only split push team, but they showed actually the biggest mastery in some of these team fights.
Well, before we get into your gentlemen's expectations of this series today, let's take a look at our bracket and see the path these squads blaze to today's title fight. Korea's SKTelecom took down the #1 seed Royal Never Give Up in 4 games, really turning it on after a weak group stage performance. And in yesterday's semifinal, we saw North America's Counterlogic Gaming beat the LMS's Flash Wolves in 4 games as well. So let's focus in on that SKT series first.
Yeah, well, they lost the first game, so the 3-1 doesn't look as dominating on paper as it actually was watching the games. Faker stepped up in a huge way.
Yeah, the last game kind of counted double almost.
Yeah, the fact that Faker was going up against Xiaohu, someone that a lot of people had toted and was honestly in great form whilst Faker was kind of slumping, didn't really seem like it in the finals because Faker was on a whole new level.
Yeah, Faker on a whole new level, very comfortable, not greeting in situations where he can get punished, but really taking maximum seizing of that opportunity that was given in some of these ganks. You know, sometimes 1v1 kills, sometimes roams, he picks people off, aggressively flashing, but he seemed very aware of what his risks were, and he was just playing very smart.
And the team set him up for success. Like, when you look at a mid lane, during the group stages especially, teams were repetitively visiting Faker's lane, trying to keep him down, but the team rallied behind him. There were times when he had 3 pink wards on the top side of his lane. You know, he can play towards that river, he can play aggressively, on especially on something like a Fizz. So I think that whilst Faker was a person that really shone through in that series, it was an overall team effort that really led to it.
And Jat, we still, though, have to contrast the bracket stage SKT versus the group stage SKT because it was wildly different.
Exactly, and I think it did actually start with Faker just taking his play to the next level, and I think we underrate how much pressure Faker is under every single game because it is expected that he dominates his opponent on the world stage, which is insane that he's actually able to deliver this level of skill this consistently on the stage, and it's going to be really difficult for CLG to go up against.
Yeah, the first time Faker came out, that was just honestly impressive skill-wise, but the consistency that he has produced that with afterwards is honestly even more impressive, especially if you take into account what SKT's preferred play style is. Especially on bot lane, it is ultra safe. It is passive, it is not pushing for advantages, which means, yeah, they can't get ganked. But then junglers know that, and they look at Faker because Faker, the way he plays, he opens himself up for ganks and outplays. His biggest strength is even turning around ganks generally, but in week 1, it kind of failed.
Exactly, and because the bot lane plays so passive, they're actually expecting Faker to carry every single game, and they consistently do it.
Yeah, well, let's look at the man then who's tasked with dealing with Faker in this series, Huhi. I know we've had some criticisms towards him throughout this tournament. What do we expect out of him? What have we thought of him leading up to this series today?
Well, Huhi was really impressive yesterday, but in saying that, he got his best champion nearly every single game. The Rise is crucial for CLG right now, and Huhi sets up the 1-3-1 so well. His teleports have been on point, and he really is the team man. I mean, no individual glory for this whole CLG lineup is personified in their mid laner.
Yeah, exactly. When they made the switch from Pobelter to Huhi, they were saying how Huhi was a better team player, and they actually did say he was a little weaker mechanically than Pobelter in lane. And those things show. The number of missed Azir ultimates this guy's had is higher than anyone else in the tournament, but he plays very well around the team, and CLG has been making it work against superior mid laners.
Yeah, and at the same time, he is improving, though, because one of those missed Azir ultimates yesterday came from Maple himself, trying to force himself onto Huhi, because Huhi was having such a large impact in the series. He will likely draw a straight ban on the Rise. I don't think he will get it for free, or SKT will have a clear answer ready.
All right, so I want to hammer this home one final time. When we turn to today's best of 5, the mid lane matchup is going to be huge. So now let's pit the two players against themselves, right? We've talked about Huhi in a vacuum and Faker in a vacuum, but how do they deal with each other?
I think a lot of this just comes down to jungle pressure as well as the champion matchups. The fact that CLG has blue side in all 5 games is a little bit daunting. It actually means they're throwing in the towel as far as this matchup goes and just letting Faker have his way because they figure Faker would be able to beat him with most champions. The KDA is actually very respectable for Huhi in those semifinals because he had some very good Rise games, but I feel like playing against Faker is a whole different beast.
His main job is to go even at best, and I think he did that well in the group stages against Faker in lane. Yes, it wasn't the best Faker, but Huhi was expected to be smashed way harder than he was ultimately in group stages, so maybe it won't be as bad as many people think, but I think that's one of the key matchups for this series.
Yeah, I certainly think so as well, and I also think it depends on his champion pool, because what he does on Rise, how he sets up the 1-3-1, how he takes the top laner generally, not the mid laner. I mean, he was matching up against MMD a lot against Flash Wolves, is really, really unique, and he has legitimate kill threat, so I expect them to get rid of that. Maybe he can mirror it with something like Alessandra or a Twisted Fate in this series, but I think it's what he does around the map, not in the laning phase, that will dictate whether who he is successful against SKT.
That series in particular, though, it was more so that they were playing, obviously, whenever the Rise came out, Azir was matched, and Azir has to stay in the mid lane in a 4-1, so we need to see if Hui can do the same thing in the side lane against Faker. But I think his biggest strength there was maintaining pressure safely while not getting caught out with limited vision, and that is generally independent of who you're playing against, but it just shows you great awareness. So that sense, we have to give him compliments too, because a lot of the work kind of goes unnoticed. It's like this invisible pressure, but he was always there, ready to cross map. Whenever Flash moves, we're like, okay, we're going mid now. Who is like, you want to do that? I'll take that trade. I'll take your base. And Flash Wolves were kind of stuck on the map.
Now, this is not to say that the mid lane is the only place where this matchup can be won. I want to turn now to the bottom lane. Starting with Bang and Wolf, Crepo, you hit on this point a little bit earlier.
Yep.
The fact that SKT doesn't necessarily play for their bottom lane to win.
Sometimes they have matchups that go even, and where you can have like the war of attrition style, and then you can win it really hard if you keep pushing and you keep bending until it breaks. However, that exposes you to ganks. And that is something Wolf and Bang kind of don't go for. They play back in lane, they play behind the neutral point, and they play the CS game.
Exactly, and CLG's bottom lane has been much more aggressive, whether they get jungle pressure to kill the turret early, or whether they just have Aphromoo roaming around more frequently. But the question here is actually going to be, because they play so passively, they're almost hoping you go aggressive a little bit. So maybe CLG just picks a scaling bottom lane and then takes it to the team fight phase.
Because let's get one thing straight. RNG wanted to kill Wolf and Bang over and over again. I mean, we saw a first Leona pick of the tournament come out against them, and they were able to absorb a lot of that pressure and actually make that part of the map a weakness for RNG, which is very hard to do against someone like Wushimata. So I think that CLG kind of have to scale against them, because it's already been proven that if you go aggressive, they punish you pretty hard.
Yeah, if you go aggressive, you need to synergize your ganks very well. We saw that in the RNG series. The aggression didn't come out together. It was one by one. And then obviously these passive sustain lanes do well. That's why we also see the rise here of these range supports. Think of a Karma. They're very good at slowly controlling the lane, but they're weak to ganks when they push, or dies when they're exposed. But if you never punish them that way, then obviously it becomes a game of picking the stronger range support, and that's why we're kind of going this downward spiral where we start with Soraka, the Karma comes out, the Sona comes out, because we're all just playing lanes 2v2 in a vacuum.
Very little room for error if CLG does decide to focus in on that bottom lane. Now let's jump to the top side of the map, Darshan versus Duke.
Yeah, this could be a tough matchup for Darshan, because Duke is a really good laning top laner. I mean, he gets to play against the likes of Someday Smeb in the LCK, and Darshan had a really rough set against MMD. I mean, he was killed a couple of times in the laning phase. His wave manipulation was just not good enough. He was pushing up continually on Echo, and I think that is something that Casa exposed and that Blank will look to replicate and get Duke ahead.
Yeah, I think Darshan's been fighting an uphill battle this entire event, because he was the last on the tank top train, and he's been playing the tank tops in every single game. But with that being said, when he does play up aggressively, he's been able to get minor 1v1 advantages. It's just he's so easily punished. So that's why I think this matchup does also come down to the jungle control in the river between Blank and Xmithy.
Yeah, and if we have to compare Blank and Xmithy versus the junglers they eliminated from the tournament, MLXD and Karsa, the biggest difference is that they don't seem to kind of plan out their ganks starting from level 1. We had a couple of MLXD ganks at like 245. We yesterday had the Karsa gank at the start to hit the 3-minute mark in the top lane. Blank doesn't seem to mirror that style, so maybe that actually influences the top lane matchup where Darshan can play that aggressive style but won't necessarily get punished. Blank, for me, did not seem like a really good synergistic ganking jungler so far.
Yeah, he kind of goes on these solo missions where, like on Nidalee, for example, he'll go Wolves, Raptors into their blue buff, and that's great. Like, that is a really smart jungle pathing, and you can 3-buff people with it quite easily. It extends your blue buff because it's very hard to invade onto the top side of Nidalee's map, but at the same time, like, that's a solo thing. That's not getting anyone else ahead. Whereas Casa, MLXG, they were very much impacting mid and top lane respectively. So I think that this is an area that, Xmithy is a very controlled jungler. His positioning on the map after about 7 minutes is very, very good. But I want Blank to look to expose him a little bit earlier on.
Key point after 7 minutes, we forget that Nidalee getting caught out in the river yesterday.
I thought his Nidalee ideals were good. The way he pushed lane, he wasn't landing spears, but he's in the right place at the right time. I think it's one of the reasons Xmithy was such a great Udyr player, because he knows how to be in the right place, but sometimes the skill shot accuracy isn't quite there for him. If he does get going, he's had a few games this season where he's had the skill shot accuracy. He's a really dangerous jungler.
Yeah, these junglers that have the concepts down, but sometimes lack the execution. For example, yesterday, he was throwing out spears when Ryze could maybe walk up and snare. get that spear there, or he didn't wait for somebody to push the zone on the enemy to like kind of give you almost a guaranteed spear. If he can get that down this game, he has the concept down, the knowledge down to really take control of the game. So we need to see if that works today, because we need Xfinity to overperform to kind of balance out this game, because SKT just as a team looks stronger.
But in saying that, both these junglers seem to prefer Kindred right now. I know historically they have liked the Nidalee, and Xmithy's Kindred, for me, has been very good around the team fights. I mean, we saw Casa a little bit too quick on some ultimates yesterday and the like, but Xmithy is someone that you can rely on in those situations. So maybe they just deprioritize it completely and go towards Kindred Graves, look for the farming junglers, and just dominate the team fight aspect.
All right, well, gentlemen, cards are on the table now. I've heard plenty of information from you now. I want to see how that swings your vote. Prediction time for this finals at MSI. Who's walking away with the title? Crepo, starting with you.
I mean, almost the obvious SKT. It's more of a question whether it's 3-0 or 3-1. I'm just going to go with the 3-0 to at least make it a little bold, so there's a chance of me being wrong.
All right. I actually have grown to really respect this CLG lineup. In saying that, I just don't think they're ready for SKT in their current form against RNG. RNG was a team that looked fantastic in the group stages, so I echo similar sentiments. I think it's going to be a 3-0, but I do think that these games will be quite late because both teams play relatively slow.
Okay, Jat.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the SKT that went 6-4 in group stage, and then also the SKT that went 3-1 against RNG, and I think CLG can be just as good as those teams. I don't necessarily think, like, for sure, yeah, CLG's got this. I think it will be a 3-1. I think they can take a game because mentally it really felt like RNG was destroyed throughout the series, and I feel like CLG is a more mentally strong team. Okay. So they will have 4 shots to take a game against SKT, and I think they'll get one of them.
Yeah, right. I definitely agree with the mental aspect here, because generally the way SKT kind of dominate finals is it's a close game 1 that they end up winning. It's a less close game 2, but then they completely stomp you game 3. Look at IEM versus Fnatic, but CLG seem very resilient when it comes to mental fortitude, so maybe they have it in them to claw back in one of the games.
I was going to say, showcased by the number of comebacks they've had in just this tournament alone. Well, the gentlemen at the desk think SKT's got it in rather crushing fashion. It's time now to send it to the casters to get this series underway. As we go, we'll get a closer look at the reigning kings of the bot lane.
울프 선수가 이제 저랑 같이 한 지 거의 2-3년쯤 됐는데
10월에 나진에서 봤죠?
어떤 촬영장 같은 곳에서 봤는데
촬영장?
응.
그것까지 기억 안 나는데
스튜디오 같은 곳에서 그때는 좀 못했고
아무래도 그치 모르고
좀 시간 지나면서 좀 점점 실력이 조금씩 올라갔다
발전하고 아무래도 처음 데뷔했을 때는 잘 서로 뭐 어떻게 해야 되는지 잘 모르니까 네, 좀 못했죠.
솔직하게 일단은 배준식 뱅 선수는 처음부터 근데 되게 잘할 것 같았고 항상 커리어 좀 쌓기 전부터 되게 잘한다고 항상 소문 내고 다녔었습니다.
제가 워낙 오래 같이 해서 그런지 뭐 칭찬할 말이 딱히 없네요. 그냥 물론 제 주관적인 입장에서는 그냥 뭐 게임한 프로게이머네 싶은데 사람들은 또 세계 최고 선수라고 생각하니까.
Playing against them, it's always like it's one person because they just move so seamlessly together. It's either, okay, they're gonna go in or they're gonna back up. And it's never one of them makes this huge mistake and, you know, throws the other one off in the bottom lane. It's always like they're one. And I think that's pretty damn cool.
There's the first kill. Bang is dominating. He gets another kill. That's 2 for him. Hybrid's next up. Make that a 3rd. A triple for the SKT AD carry.
울프 선수는 친구로서 좀 뭐 유쾌한 것도 있고 선수로서 뭐 솔직히 다 선수들은 이기려고 하고 열심히 하는데 그냥 좀 더 열심히 하는 그런 선수?
저랑 준식이랑 둘이서 굉장히 저희 팀의 약간 뭐랄까요? 분위기 메이커? 약간 그런 포지션을 맡고 있는데 재밌는 친구에 한번 화나면 좀 무섭긴 하지만
일단 뱅 선수와 울프 선수를 처음과 지금 비교하면은 생활 태도나 뭐 연습하는 연습량 이런 게 커리어 쌓기 전과 후가 너무 똑같아서 너무 고마운 선수들이에요.
I
absolutely love hearing from the players, and we're going to see how they handle themselves against Stixay and Aframu. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Trevor Quickshot Henry, joined by Sam, Kobe Hartman Kenza, and Martin DeFicio Lunga, as we're about to jump into this best of 5. Listen, let's quickly touch on side choices. CLG as the highest seed elected blue, games 1, 3, and 5. SKT in games 2 and 4, they picked red, so we're going to have another potential all blue, all red series.
Makes me really excited to see what Faker is going to do, right? Yeah, I know you're gonna have second guesses because Faker's gonna have the opportunity to counterpick Huhi in every single match. You know, if things start going badly for CLG, then as a lot of the analysts predicted, it could snowball the series.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Huhi, he better be able to run fast because Faker, he's coming for that booty.
Swiggity swooty, and you better watch out because Faker usually gets what he wants.
But it's such a problem when we just look at the pick and ban phase because we know the amount of counterpicks Faker does have, like Fizz is one of them he showed in the semi-final. If you can play Fizz into Xiao Hu's Azir, you can play it into Hui's Azir as well.
Yeah. No surprise here, they're targeting Huhi right off the bat. Now, one of the things that went into CLG's choice of blue side every time here is that they wanted to pick the blue champion as well. Rise has been key for Huhi in all of their series. Aurelion Sol is the first target there from SKT, though.
So what do SKT do? Are they willing to ban it, or will Faker play one of those counter picks that we've talked about? You can see Alistair, Siva, Maokai, the bans from CLG.
Yeah, so with the last ban, CLG is kind of telling SKT, we removed their first pick top option, so now Rise has to be a ban, and that's why SKT is banning it. Otherwise, you know, they could have left it open, given it for free over to CLG, and only get 2 picks without the same value as a Maokai. And I think this Echo first pick is the correct choice because Darshan needs a good matchup in the top lane.
Yeah, I think the only thing he does need to correct, yesterday when we were casting their game versus Flash Wolves, there were multiple points where me and Cripple were like, Darshan should know at this point that he has to play safer because there is a 3-0 Kindred on the map, and he was punished. Karsa did a really good job of asserting pressure and getting Darshan behind.
And I really like how we see these adaptations between series. Israel coming into the playoffs, we're not looking to be the most contested AD carry, but then during the series we saw these AD carries saying, you know what, we actually want to have a very safe choice in the bottom lane where our support can start roaming. That choice is Israel. This is like the LCK final where both the Tigers and SKT wanted that Israel pick because then it opens up your support to start roaming around.
And of course for Bang and Wolf, changing that playstyle a little from being over-aggressive in the group stage to being a little bit more controlled, a little safer during the semi-final earlier this week. Canalog Gaming got 20 seconds to lock in their picks. Where are they targeting?
Echo mid coming in. Surprising in a way. Shown very early, because they want to make sure that Sean can actually take the Poppy top, and obviously they saw the Azir, so they felt like, okay, this is going to be the matchup we take.
Exactly. The Maokai is banned, so they want to take away the third of those top 3 triumvirate of the top lanes. The only thing is that Trundle has been the lane bully that comes in and tries to break up those 3, stealing the stats of the tanks up on the top side.
And this is still a flex pick for SKT. Obviously can still be moved down to
Very
support.
possible.
If needed, Nautilus is an option up top lane if you want a pure tank against the Poppy. But this is again one of the big questions we had. What can Huhi blind pick? Technically in this one they had a flex pick, so he wasn't completely blind. He saw the Azir, he could now take the Echo into it, but that's still a very, very hard champion to play.
It is, and it's a champion that plays into sort of a style that Huhi's tried to adapt to multiple mid lane champions, where he presses the lane, tries to shove out the wave, and get multiple early backs. It is a style that can be punished with jungle pressure towards the mid lane, and that's why this Elise is also a pretty important pick here for me for SKT, signaling that Blank actually wants to go for a lot of early ganks instead of opting into that hard farming, which has been prevalent.
We have seen so many Kindreds, Nidalees, and so on in this tournament, but this is an Elise now coming in as the first choice, and it's because SKT has decided it's not about what Blank can do as a carry. It's about what he can do for his lanes. And he's playing a more supportive utility jungler, and wow.
The Nami is locked in.
Are we back in Season 3 or anything here?
Ranged supports are a thing. The moment Alistair's banned away, we're just not seeing anything. So, Nami, Kobe, what do you think of that?
One of the biggest surprises to everyone was that at this tournament, the entire world started following the North American support pool, sort of defining the meta. Now Wolf is taking it one step further and saying, Aframu, I see your Sona.
We're trying too hard to make new picks happen right here. I feel like Sona yesterday, now the Nami as well.
Hey, the Sona worked.
It did work. It was a good pick into Karma, which was the reason obviously Aframu
as a former Nami main, is Nami a good pick into Soraka?
No, I actually don't think so. Because Nami is built around either you play a passive sustain lane, or you try and play with an AD carry who can outtrade the enemy AD carry and you set up these picks with bubbles. The problem is Soraka will out-sustain the Nami, so you actually have to be able to all-in them.
I also agree with Officio in the team fight phase as well, because when CLG run the Echo mid Poppy top, which they've done before, they use it to take out the back line of their opponents. And Nami's a little bit less reliable in defending her AD carry.
We'll find out if those tidal waves work out. You guys at home, jump on Twitter. For the first time in the Championship Series at the Mid-Season Invitational, will it be hashtag CLG win or hashtag SKT win? As far as the trophy is concerned, you can see both NALCS and LCK setting themselves up to do battle in this best of 5.
Definitely going to look at the top lane, first of all, for me, because I want to see how SKT play around Duke. This should be a winning lane for SKT if they find normal lanes. Will CLG try and force the lane swap because of this?
We're about to find out, Kobe. We are on the riff for game 1 in the best of 5. The North American LCS on the blue side for the entire series, however long that may be. And SKT, they've got their sights set on the only trophy they have yet to secure in the world.
It's definitely something that people have glossed over a little bit. This is one trophy that slipped through the fingers of Coma, Faker, Bang, Wolf last year at MSI. The one thing missing from their collection.
Taken away from them, if you will.
Stolen, basically.
Yep.
Earned by China's
I like that one.
So, this game again, we saw some surprising things in the pick and ban phase. Nami obviously jumps out instantly, but also as we talked about, the fact that we get this Trundle Elise combo for SKT, what I liked so much is that CLG likes to counterpick supports. But when they saw the Trundle, they didn't know. Was it going support? Was it going top lane? Obviously, there was a high chance it would be top lane for Duke into the Poppy, making it a bit harder for CLG to get a specific counter pick. Soraka is just their go-to, honestly, right now. A lot of people consider her the strongest of the ranged supports, and that's why they went for that choice.
CLG are going to get some early information. Let's see how they react here. Bottom lane does look like they're trying to move away from it and get that lane swap so that Darshan won't have to play into the Trundle.
And I really like this level 1 by CLG, where they go in and actually get the 3 deep boards.
Some damage onto Blank. They're going to chase this one. Exhaust has been used, but Afro and Styx, they can't really stick to Blank long enough.
So this is very good scouting by CLG, because in the semifinal against RNG, last game, Blank did exactly the same. When SKT lane swapped, he snuck in, started the enemy Raptor, and then snuck down and took a red buff after. But CLG walked in and stopped him.
Yeah, we've got to touch on how aggressive Afromu's being here. He tried to use the exhaust just to get the slow so his next star call would land. Now Wolf is trying to answer, though, in mid lane.
Soldiers going down. Flash bubble flashed away, but that is a great trade. I'm going to put Huhi even further on the back
foot. Afro got it.
Afro's still not done. Continuing to challenge Blank in the jungle. Looking at the minimap, there's no response yet.
That was a really early smite from Blank there.
It doesn't matter, because right now Duke is just getting free farm in the bot lane. He doesn't care about his own jungler being delayed. Didn't even get to see if Afro managed to steal that one.
No,
at the end.
Blank picked that one up, I believe.
But like, look at the CS, because Duke just sat bot lane, 1v1, Bang is in
look
trouble.
at this, Bang and Darshan.
No,
the minion wave is going to help out, and Darshan gives up first blood to Bang.
A huge mistake from Darshan, though, and a really good punish by Bang, fighting him in the minions, going aggressive, not letting Darshan get away with that.
Look at the minimap. Faker smells blood in the water. He's coming over the wall. He's level 3, got access to the soldiers.
What's going on?
He's down. Blue buff is given to Faker at level 3. Counter Logic Gaming, they are pulling a G2 and getting crushed in the early game. A third kill on the cards. Starcall comes out. Stixay's now in trouble. He's trying to put one back. Third kill picked up for SKT, and Stixay, he's sticking around. Gentlemen, there's an early teleport. This one will be completed by Huhi as he joins the lane.
Everything goes wrong for CLG. Disaster strikes, mistakes, unforced errors from them, and then really strong punish from SKT. They move right in to clean up all this gold.
Honestly, that was one of the most unnecessary starts I've ever seen to a BO5.
All across the map.
If you're CLG, you qualified to this final by beating Flash Wolves in team fights. You said yesterday, after the games, we can battle SKT late game. We can fight them in these late game fights and we can win them. Why do you then go into the first game and go crazy, honestly, from level 1. Over chasing, trying to steal away buffs, trying to 1v1 in a massive minion wave top as well.
Backfires horribly, Deficio. But if there was a game to try something crazy, it is game 1 in a best of 5. And CLG are down 1,700 gold already.
Everybody's been talking about the mental state of the players going into these best of 5s. And CLG's been so outspoken and confident in their interviews, talking about respecting their opponents, not fearing them. The jitters seem to have found them. Early on in the series does not bode well.
I just think so many things were going on that the communication suddenly became almost impossible. Because like, Aframu is communicating that he's trying to harass the enemy jungler. Suddenly he gets a call from bottom lane, oh, this Trundle is just pushing me in, he's just getting free farm. Dashawn goes aggressive up top, and like everything just seemed really, really messed up, honestly. And you suddenly lose 3 kills.
Now the ball is in SKT's court. They have such a strong early lead now. We're going to look for Blank to use this Elise, get the vision down, and try and continue the punish here. Pretty much all lanes sitting in very good spots here for SKT.
And let's just talk about what just happened here like a minute ago, because everyone went into the lanes, no more fighting. We had, obviously, Dashawn pushing up top lane. Instantly, as he sees Duke teleport, he leaves the top lane. He does not want to play that 1v1. It's definitely not against a double longsword Trundle already. So he had to leave, meaning SKT got a chance to push out the lanes. Blank is in the jungle.
He's going to try and pressure with the bottom side and increase the advantage, but Nidalee's very difficult to go for those invades on. Defensive ward allows Smithy to land the spear and ward him off.
But Smithy is actually on the wrong side of the map here. If you want to stop Duke from farming, you need your jungler topside to just instantly dive him. Seems like though actually by him just taking a bit of the damage, he backs away. I'm not sure if it's because he's not 100% aware.
Oh, look at this trade in the mid lane. Huhi's looking for the parallel convergence. A flash away from Faker. Huhi on the assassin is now in trouble. Chrono breaks back, does not get the damage. As the Time Winder will continue to poke out Faker just before he gets his divide.
Some very confident play there from Huhi, and that's the matchup that we talked about, the way you're going to have to play it. Here we go, another interaction with the junglers. Blank a little bit behind in farm, as that earlier invade he tried to do on Smithy cost him quite a bit of time, and the Nidalee should be able to pull ahead, but this bottom side of the map is SKT territory now.
And now suddenly Dashawn is all alone.
This is looking scary. 3 members of SKT grouping.
No teleport to help him.
Under the tower, there is a flash available. Dashawn's going to put the steadfast presence down. Dashes forward onto Blank. Bubble is not thrown. It will throw Dashawn up, and the kill secured by Blank.
Another strong punish from SKT. The first invade fails for Blank, but they're able to recover right after. And Dashawn, all by his lonesome down bottom, goes down once again.
Yeah, you're never supposed to sit and just defend on the towers in these lane swaps if you don't know where the enemy jungler is, and he got punished, but now Duke might actually get the same treatment up top.
Yeah, they're going to try and close in on him. No AD carry for the extra damage here, but Nidalee's great at chasing.
There is an exhaust thrown down. The root will find. Smithy's going to keep pouncing forward, and an easy pickup, the first for North America.
Yeah, we see 2 top laners here, very greedy for farm. No one really wants to fall behind. Duke, he knows he needs to become a split-pushing threat to have value on the Trundle. And Dashawn knows if he falls too far behind, there's nothing he can do to stop him. So they greed for the minions and they get punished.
Yeah, and CLG are clawing right back into this game. Yes, they are down the early dragon, which is something that SKT have focused on very heavily in the knockout stages and done a very good job at controlling. But CLG are happy just to be back within, gold range here. A lot of it, though, is sitting on this Nidalee compared to the Elise, and a lot of it is that farm.
I mean, there's the key thing. While they lost kills, they actually didn't lose farm, because they had some of the lanes, like mid lane, who he had pushed it out before he roamed. Yep. Obviously, we had Stixie just sitting bot lane as well, farming. So they actually managed to stay even or slightly ahead in CS, and obviously Smithy getting a lot of farm as well.
And of course, how early in the game, the value of the kill, the gold given over, not quite as crucial. CLG with the tower advantage have actually temporarily taken the gold lead, though that bottom tower will go over with just a breath of air the next time Bang pushes it in.
It is a good sign for the mentality of the CLG players. And this is one reason why they said that they actually wanted to face SKT rather than RNG, because our SKT are a little bit less aggressive in the early game, less punishing for them. And that was something
Except for the 3
kills. Well, see, that was a lot of unforced errors from,
Yes.
from CLG. CLG have no one to blame for that but themselves.
Now, here's this tower falling down. The minion line will conga its way in. 1-2 auto attack should be all it takes, and bang. With the help of Wolf, secures tower number 1. Only a 300 gold lead, so despite that early start, it's Darshan that's up 20 CS over Duke's Trundle and 2 levels.
The wave was pushing away from Duke when he died. That's why he tried to walk in and push it out and got ganked. So he actually ended up losing even more, and Darshan just been able to pick up the entire wave, and you can see how Duke is very afraid to get close enough.
And look at this challenge again in the jungle. Smithy lands a good spear onto Blank, but the Brambleback will reset. He's lost his patience and returned to the pit. SKT are not done yet. They pulled in Faker, and Smithy will secure the buff as up top, Darshan is getting bullied. The Trundle is knocked away by the verdict, and Duke, with that subjugate, wins the 1v1.
First time Duke gets any vision on where CLG is on the map, and then he can start pushing out the wave. Sadly for him, it took over a minute, and that is why he's so far behind. He needs this wave all the way into tower, so it bounces back, and he can start picking up more. Flash is ready for him, teleport is ready for both top laners, and Hugi is always looking to try and land that stun.
Playing it very aggressively, and you got to commend him for playing that melee assassin matchup into Faker. Talk about getting sight of the junglers. Having sight of this Elise is very important for CLG. They do not have it now, but Smithy is going for a blind invade while Hugi is recalling.
Blank was able to just pull that red buff just out of range of the javelin toss. We've crossed it over the 10-minute mark. Looking at the minimap, some very defensive wards in that red buff area from CLG. Expected with the tower being down and the amount of pressure that Blank has put in this area of the map. You can just see that vision toggle as SKT. Got a couple of wards, going to spot out Stixxay returning to that lane.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep track of those wards, especially the ones that get a little bit deeper on the sides of the lanes where the outer turrets have gone down, because CLG do have that extra teleport in the mid lane. If Hugi is able to play it aggressively and shove up that wave, CLG might look to try and pinch their movement.
And one thing SKT always puts a lot of focus on is warding up the river. Take control of the river, because that means your mid laner can often play very aggressive. He can see both sides of the map. He knows he's not getting ganked. The enemy team suddenly don't know if a jungler is hiding there, so they're afraid to do anything. But in this game, because of all the crazy early fighting and CLG being able to push the waves back, they actually haven't really secured anything on the side of SKT, and that allows Hugi to play aggressive, which he needs to in this lane.
Yeah, it was honestly an impressive recovery for the time being from CLG. They still have to be very worried about the late game Faker Azir.
Now, I'm wondering at what point Duke's going to be worried as well. 77 CS to 41, still down in experience, and Darshan, one of the guys we were looking at in terms of how is he going to perform, how is he going to handle Duke and maybe the opposition, has put off a good early game at the moment.
And I really want to highlight what CLG is doing on the bottom side now. Because SKT tried to set up that pink ward in the river. Instantly, CLG pushes out bot lane, roams with 2 members in, and they clear out that ping. So once again, CLG is constantly fighting for the river. And they're saying, SKT, you're not allowed to just hide the river, hide your jungler. We're always going to be able to spot him.
And specifically for the Faker matchup, you talk about being able to play aggressively in the mid lane has a lot to do with the player that they field in this mid lane.
And it's also why the rest of SKT, if you look at the side lanes, especially against RNG, they didn't play aggressive. Because all they had to do was push out their lanes, not fight, not risk anything, just push out your lane, ward up that river, and just let Faker on a Fizz or whatever strong laning champ, not a strong lane champion with the Fizz, but a champion who could then snowball, let him play aggressive, let him get a few kills, and let him win the game.
And that's exactly what SK did to get here to the finals. Dragon will be spawning in 45 seconds. Currently, deeper vision for SKT, as you can see, Smithy starting to clear it out and regain some control. Wonder if CLG are going to be interested in contesting this one. The first Dragon went over in exchange for a kill on Duke, and TP used by Hugi back into the middle lane. Find out if that Abyssal Scepter is going to help him out. A couple of pink wards in CLG inventory, and it looks like the SKT vision is starting to dwindle and wither away.
Again, that's all credit to CLG and how they managed to push up lanes and then roam in and take them out, because it's very hard alone to kill a pink ward. It's very risky to do. SKT is trying to get some vision around this
Iceborne Gauntlet on Bang is going to put a slow on Aphromu. Tidal Wave is flashed away as the dragon spawns in the corner of the screen, but that means no summoner for Afro.
Look at Darshan's positioning as well. He's looking to dive Faker right now at the same time the SKT are starting up this dragon. The dive fails here for CLG, but that's enough to dissuade SKT. All that SKT have to do now is wait for the top lane advantage to culminate in the tower kill here for Duke. Darshan used a lot of time there going for that play.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the roam from Darshan because I feel like he's much stronger in a team fight at the moment due to Duke also being behind in farm, obviously, and sitting on a Tiamat at this point, so he's not very tanky. That means Darshan should just stay in his lane, wait for a team fight to start, and then he should TP in instead.
Well, they haven't got the opportunity just yet. The mid tower is secured by CLG, 2 towers to 1. Duke was pushed away from that top lane, and the Dragon has not been started. Stixxay gets chunked down by Bang's combo, but as it stands, CLG come away temporarily with the advantage.
SKT closing in as well. You can tell they're working on the vision around this Dragon. Want to get number 2 for themselves to start stacking that up. And I think that CLG forfeit this one.
Yeah, no contest at all. CLG will be content with the global gold, content with the objective of the tower.
Yeah.
And of course, Darshan has gone toe-to-toe. I mean, he's still plus 35. You know, he was down in CS a little while ago, but has been able to balance that one out. And xMsmithy's farming well. I mean, you got to give credit to CLG for keeping the CS numbers up, keeping the gold up to go toe-to-toe with SKT.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely working through those early game jitters. And Huhi gonna get the Azir turret gold as well on top of it. Takes a lot, yeah, exactly. It takes a lot of poke. You know, you lose a little bit of map control with your mid laner getting chunked out so heavily like that, with Huhi not having sustain.
I think it's quite a good sign to see xMsmithy hitting some of these spears, by the way. Just because when we saw him play in Italy yesterday, the pre-15, pre-20-minute spears from Fog of War, from the sides, actually were not finding their targets. And we've seen a number of those invades from Blank being punished somewhat. This time around, Blank is going to enlist the help of the Rift Herald. Smithy's going to pounce away.
He is surrounded.
Surrounded. 4 members of SKT. Smithy's on the wrong side. Flashes away, going to buy as much time as he can. Going to continue to get run down. This should be eventually a kill. Subjugate used to reduce some of the defenses here for Smithy. Pounce is still available. The crowd are watching. Bush is going to help out.
Every
Get the
single
speed.
one
Smithy's going to keep chasing, but there's simply too much to handle. Slow comes down from Wolf. It's not finished yet. The tower dive finally secures the kill, but what can CLG do? The answer is not much.
Exactly. The key part of this chase, usually when you see someone running an entire team around the map like that, the rest of the team is in a position to try and punish, but CLG on both mid and bottom had their waves pushed in. So Stixxay is trying his best right now to get that up to the bottom turret, and Darshan's delaying with the ultimate here from Poppy.
Stixxay should be able to get the bot tower here because Duke has to run all the way down to defend it. No, he's not going to be there in time. So yeah, you give away 1 kill. For now, though, you traded for a tower. SKT has to be able to get top tower as well.
Yeah, that red buff on Lucian helping a lot there. True damage on the turret. And they're going to be able to get more global gold. It will be a trade here.
Yeah, it should be the tower secured shortly. Blank, I thought for a moment, might be looking to set something up, but Afro's the one that's in trouble. Parallel convergence comes down. Faker chunks out Afro. He's not going to be able to survive, and Darshan now forced to flash away. xMsmithy's pulled in as some backup, and the 2 members of CLG trying to thwart a further push.
Yeah, they see a low mana Ezreal here, and they want to try and continue, but it is dangerous.
Look at Huhi in the river. If SKT pick the wrong path out, there could be threat, but Huhi's not going to be able to find anything yet.
They're pinging Faker. Huhi's going to go for the 1v1.
Not going to find the stun. Faker smells something fishy and decides to back away. The rest of CLG seem content to try to get some deep vision at least.
So in the end, SKT gets tower on top lane, gets the kill, of course, on Afromu. Problem about these lane swaps and the range supports is they become very, very low level very quickly. And Soraka is so squishy, you see Faker just instantly jumping him, killing him. Obviously, this game had a bit of everything. We had a lane swap, then we had standard lanes, then we had another lane swap, and we kind of kept dancing around. But look at Afmo, he's obviously extremely squishy.
Yeah,
Faker knows it.
And we talked about the value of the deep wards here. Afromu just getting a little bit too risky here. They wanted to try and turn this, it looks like, because he immediately exhausts, but Faker's able to get the kill, get the summoner spell, and get out.
And extend that lead even further. 2-0-1, Riley's complete, Nash is complete, plus 25 CS. I mean, Faker's already 2 items on one of the most game-changing mid laners available in the current meta.
Right, and normally against the Azir, you want to play side lanes because he's stuck in the mid lane and you don't want to run straight into him. So you want to play around him on the map. Problem for CLG is the fact that there's a Trundle in the game who will beat the Poppy in the split push with also a Hydra build. So it's very, very, very split push focused from Duke. CLG is not going to win that unless they send the Echo here to try and kill him.
Yep, Huhi's going to go aggressive here for the trade.
That's the one.
A lot of damage. Duke has already used Subjugate, healing up, but is in trouble. Chrono Break goes backwards. Huhi realizes he's actually been bitten off more than he can chew. And Duke's able to force him away, trading ultimates.
Well, obviously, yeah, Huhi is built to face an AP champion, and now he walks up to a physical damage dealer with the Abyssal Scepter that does nothing.
Wave clear, very important there. Stixxay burning the Lucian ultimate. Level 11 on that calling, so it is level 2. The other thing, though, you mentioned the Azir and the power he brings to the team fights. Also, Blank on the Elise has built up the early Aegis, which does provide a decent amount of defense versus Huhi and Smithy.
Blank actually likes to go ban off command on Elise, gives a bit of AP, some cooldown reduction, and of course...
Whoa!
Always
double teleports
well.
deep. CLG are coming in. Oh,
what happened?
Only
I was looking at you, and you were like,
Darshan
oh.
canceled it. See, you see where Huhi is, Deficio?
Oh, I see
Darshan
it.
was also channeling teleport, but they canceled it. Plan aborted for CLG there.
You got me all hyped. I was looking at you and just started yelling.
Got very excited as well, but obviously nothing happens in the play. And both teleports down. SKT will have the minor advantage with Duke's TP still up. We've talked about that Duke into Poppy matchup. Darshan's already got the QSS. Much debated in terms of that top lane Trundle and why it fell out of popularity, at least in the LCK.
I mean, he's back right now. QSS
We're not in the LCK, so we'll see. We'll see what impact that QSS will have. Darshan actually uses the Verdict to try and defend this red buff. And we're 20 minutes into the game. Red buff stolen. So cheeky from Bang.
CLG have seen it before. NL did the same yesterday.
Yep. And of course, just to reiterate, 20 seconds until the next dragon spawns, even on gold, despite a 6-1 kill deficit. And SKT just down that single tower.
And just to jump on your QSS point there, it is still the right item choice against Trundle. The problem is, it doesn't really help you stop him from split pushing. He just won't kill you as easily. Like, he will still push you down, he will out-sustain you, and he will force you to defend on the tower. And then obviously for a team fight, he will become a little bit weaker because he can't just ulti you straight away and then keep getting all these lovely stats. So it is the correct choice, but he will still be a split pushing monster, even against the QSS.
Yep, meanwhile, SKT continuing with the standard game plan for them here. Stacking up those dragons. They're very confident in having control and keeping control of that area as their team fight gets better and better. The game right now for CLG is teetering on an edge. They would have to make some big moves here. They still have the gold to win a team fight. They just have to land some crucial silences with the Soraka there.
Well, that's why these teleports and the use they just had before where they had to cancel it is so massive, because the way for them to win this game is by sitting in side lanes with the double TP and then obviously push out both lanes as much as they can and then TP into flank against the Azir.
Exactly. The way I was talking about, CLG loves to play the Poppy Echo double pick, is annihilating one threat from the back line of the enemy team. Bang, though, fending them off from all sides here.
Yeah, it's hard to find an opportunity to flank when Bang hits every single Iceborne empowered Mystic shot. Taking a look at the itemization though, Huhi has a 21-minute Rod of Ages. So CLG looking to buy some time to stack that up. Outer turret drops in the mid lane. Tidal Wave will split CLG and Stixxay will be forced back from the Emperor's Divide. Teleport comes down from Duke. The first victim of the fight is Smithy as he's dropped down by Bang. Stixxay forced to defend and dashes away with the relentless pursuit. True shot barrage almost kills Afro.
Oh, pretty big here for SKT, and they want to continue the pressure, but Huhi's coming in from the side.
There's no one stunned up by the convergence, and with no TP for Huhi, he wasn't able to join quickly enough. SKT get the kill, they get the tower, and they get away.
That was such a big moment for SKT. Now they have so much control. All outers are down. They have the dragon stacking in their favor. They have a very strong team fight they can rely upon. The only thing now that they really have to keep in mind is the teleport from Darshan and looking for that flank you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's again the problem. Everything we have seen the last 2 minutes starts with that teleport being cancelled from CLG, because now suddenly SKT can siege. Great ulti, by the way, from Wolf, stopping Stixxay from dealing a bit of damage, and then they manage to take down the one member they need to win the fight. But again, getting the dragon, sieging on mid tower, it is only possible for SKT to do without being afraid of anything, because the TPs were on cooldown for CLG. And Darshan obviously cannot win the side lane battle, so he has to be able to have a bigger impact in team fights, or he can do nothing.
And this is SKT's go-to game plan. They're very at home at this stage in the game. They can play safe, they can play calculated, and they just have to move up slowly. CLG, they're the ones who have to throw in the wild card now.
We got the banner.
That's going to give Darshan a little bit of a headache.
Red
So
buff
is Bang.
Ezreal. Pretty annoying to deal with, but
Darshan's
Darshan.
going to TP away. True shot barrage won't even matter. But another time, cooldown blown and that opportunity to flank, that opportunity to get behind SKT is diminished.
So now the only thing CLG can do is put Huhi in the lane with Duke, because Duke won't have teleport for quite a while, and Huhi will very soon. And Huhi, all he can do is just try and wave clear it. Don't try and fight 1v1 against Duke. Wave clear it, and then TP in and try and 4v5 against SKT. But that requires SKTelecom now to start being more aggressive and like push further past the river. They don't have to. They can literally just set up the Baron, play a bit passive, and wait for that TP from Duke.
Definitely agree. And SKT, as you can see now, they're doing such a good job of clearing out all the vision.
Yeah, play
Plus,
safe.
for CLG, it's heartbreaking that the teleport that's more impactful is the flank teleport from Poppy. The Echo teleport is a big tool for them. It's just a little bit less reliable.
We'll have to find out if Huhi can make it work. It is available, and Hui's pushing out that bottom lane very aggressively. As the rest of SKT, they group up. Afro's caught! The fangs sink in! And Blank is on a killing spree, 3-0. Culling forced to defend the tower. Stixxay has to flash away just from the Faker soldiers.
And now you can play aggressive because it is Huhi in an empty lane on the bottom side. So SKT is saying it's okay, he can maybe take a tower. We keep Duke on our top side at first. We create one pick because, again, the Soraka can't really roam. And then suddenly we can push in, and we don't care about Echo staying bot lane.
SKT do not care at all. The inhibitor will be dropping. It's just a few more autos. The hammer comes down from Darshan. He's found an opportunity. Pushed Bang against the wall, and Faker's going to look for one before he goes down. The Barrow Exhaust is not going to be available, and Faker tries to get away. The shield comes out from Darshan, and the inhibitor stays standing. That is a gigantic swing for CLG. What can they do with the 40 seconds of time? Time Winder from Huhi will not tag anyone, and CLG have just bought some breathing room. They're still down in gold. They're still down in control.
Might be going straight towards the Baron here for CLG. Problem is there's still 4 members alive. Duke is on his way, level 14 on his Trundle. Might be the only move for CLG though.
As we said, yeah, CLG have to come up with an unexpected play here and catch someone by surprise.
Duke may be that man. Subjugate is available, going to start healing him up. The rest of SKT peel away. Tidal Wave is not available, and Huhi takes Wolf down. That's the first for Huhi this game. 30 seconds without the SKT support. CLG, they're going to commit to the Baron.
The mid laner's going to have to walk from base as well. Faker not going to be able to join. CLG forcing this one hard.
And Huhi's looking for the fight, being chunked down from Bang. Has not got a flash available. Cocoon lands, but it won't matter. CLG peeled away from Baron, and Bang is low. He's got no mana. It's a kill for CLG. They might be turning it around. A defensive flash from Duke as CLG, they continue to pressure SKT.
Every time we see CLG get down here at MSI, they go back to the... Oh, never mind.
Oh, Smithy's in trouble.
They go back to what?
Looking for a kill. But
well, they need to go back to base is what they need to do.
There it is.
You need to go back to base. And gentlemen, I just want to remind you, the first time CLG faced SKT, they won off a Baron call. They won after challenging SKT in that area. And CLG, they claw back some life.
And again, every time we see one of these exciting moves from CLG, we have to remember that you have to keep your calm about you. The baby steps to get back into the game. CLG right here, take another one as they take down Bang.
Obviously, CLG would have loved to pick up the Baron, but it's very difficult this early on in the game with still members alive from SKT. So they just keep baiting it. Force SKT to come stop them, then they can engage, get a few kills. Faker!
Oh, Faker might be in trouble! He's down! Smithy's picked up the kill! They turn their attention to Wolf, and will be sending him back to the fountain. It's a hammer for the kill!
The surprise plays, Deficio! CLG, now they've got control. Can they force another Baron? There's a pink ward inside. That's all they have to get rid of. Definitely some real damage threats left up for SKT, though.
And they're going to turn their attention to Bang! Bang is in trouble, forced to flash over the wall. He's going to look to get chased. Smithy's trying to run. What goes up must go down. And killed as Blank is taken out.
Another step for CLG, and they return to force the Baron.
It's no longer baby steps right here. CLG, they start running, and they're getting more and more. Baron dropping down 50%. Now Duke is the only man here.
CLG need to time their stun. There's no steal threat from SKT.
This is as good as CLG's unless there's an Ezreal steal. He doesn't have his ultimate.
And Baron is secured. The crowd goes wild in Counter Logic Gaming. They play so well from behind.
Every time I tell myself I'm going to have a calm CLG game, they make a miraculous comeback. Look at this play from Vision. This is something that SKT were doing in group stages to get themselves back on top. But CLG strike back. They know they had their backs against the walls, and they can't lose slowly. So they go for the big play over and over.
And it's the kind of place you just do not expect if you're a team like SKT, who hides there right now. But the reason CLG could do it, because Dragon had just spawned. SKT were looking at 4th Dragon, thought everyone had recall, could set up a bit of vision. Instantly, CLG collapses, gets the kill,
Dragon
get the
stacking
Baron.
is still a very real threat here from SKT.
But now you're fighting into Baron buff, and remember, Duke, yes, he's very strong in a split push, but he's not that great in a team fight.
There's two coming from the flank. Darshan's looking for blood. The Dragon should be secured by CLG, and that is a crucial, crucial steal away.
Showing restraint there. You don't just charge in. They also have the mid wave here. They can press in and get a turret as well. Really good sign for CLG that they're not getting too hyped up on their steps to come back in this game, and they're going step by step. Just take the Dragon, slow the stacking, get the extra gold from the standing turrets.
And I think we have to highlight the fact that CLG was simply not in control. They were only down a small amount of gold at the 25-minute mark, but they were playing defensive, they were playing reactive, and it was SKT in the driving seat until this series of plays.
Right, not only was CLG down a bit in gold, but also composition-wise, it was very difficult for them to get the proper team fight. Had just used another teleport from Darshan as well, where they didn't get anything, so it looked very, very bad until SKT rushed down that mid lane. First guy got picked off, then we got all the Baron baits, and then the big play, obviously, when they catch Faker, knock him into the wall.
Again and again, CLG showing up here at MSI. It's been said so many times, but they're doing North America proud. Coming from a region that at international events was openly mocked for years. That's why people are getting so excited for these CLG comebacks that they're mounting.
SKT
gonna give them a taste of their own medicine though.
Gonna chase forward, Bang's looking for Stixay. Afro will find the heal of the Astral Infusion, flashes out of range of the tidal wave, but it's Bang that's in trouble. Here comes Huhi, looking for the stun. Will find it onto Blank, but forced to back away. Duke's on the front line, look at the slide, glide, divide. Faker split the fight, but nobody's gone down. Xmithy was golden from the hourglass. Blank jumps forward, 2 kills for SKT. A full retreat as Huhi is trying to recall. Afromu goes down, and now SKT have got 45 seconds.
Yeah, short-lived CLG comeback right there. SKT running straight down the mid. They're going to get the inhibitor.
Darshan just have to go back and try and clear out the minion wave instead, because it's only 1 melee minion for SKT. I don't think he can really do a whole lot here.
We're about to find out. It's only 31 minutes into the game. SKT decide not to risk the Nexus turrets. Instead, turn their attention onto Darshan. He's trying to pull the attention, the focus from SKT, and will survive a few more minutes.
SKT realized they didn't have any minions at first, except for that one little guy, so they couldn't actually go for the double turrets. Would have been too risky.
The all-in here from Bang. E forward, using the Blade of the Ruin King, getting down all of the slows to try and force Stixay out of the fight, and then Huhi gets stunned up and almost taken down there. Is able to ult back, but it takes him back to the teleport location. So he's not there, and it ends up being a 3 versus 5 for SKT where they clean up.
It's very hard for an AP Echo to TP into these fights because
can't survive long enough.
When you TP in, exactly, you want to put up your W, get that massive stomp, but it takes time for it to charge up. So when he puts it there and jumps in, nothing really saves him other than jumping back to his ulti. That's why it's so difficult for him to assassinate anyone in the backline when he's teleporting in.
And there's no hourglass for Huhi yet. He's finally got that Rod of Ages stacked up, but needs that additional survivability if he's looking to engage. And we're going to be a long way away before that's wrapped up.
Yeah, SKT are not going to let this one go easily. As we said before, this is the one trophy they are looking to add to their collection that's been missing. We talk about the redemption story of CLG so often, but SKT also had struggles this season, bringing in 2 new players. Darshan now going to try and find his way out and gets the escape off away from Faker. But yes, early in the season with the 2 new players, struggles for SKT as well.
Truthfully, MSI 2016 is a good condensed version of the entire year for SKT. Starting off shaky, making mistakes, not being on the same page, individual players not performing, but they show up when it matters. Darshan's the target, Flash is available for him, as is the verdict. Bubble throws him up into the air, 2,500 hit points. He's going to get burst away, continues to back away using that QSS.
Exactly, QSS won't be up for a team fight now if Trundle decides to target him, which he will.
Unless he misclicks, but
well,
we assume
true enough.
Probably not.
Well, it wouldn't be the biggest.
Darshan's waiting in the fountain right now with home guards, by the way.
So
there is a ward, he's teleporting now.
Let's take a look. Teleports in the river, it's very far away, and Stixay has been chunked low. Afro's going to do a lot of work Here comes Darshan from the back. The verdict is available. Bubble throws him up into the air. Darshan's in trouble. He's winding up for the poppycopter. He's found a target and sent Blank away. Stick stays low. He goes back in. That's a big burst of damage onto Bang. The fight is split into two. With Bang down, Counterlogic Gaming might have a chance. Faker! First presence. Faker's got Afro, but the damage dealers are still up. Stick stays caught between a trundle and a pillar, and he's in trouble. They've got Faker, but the chomp comes down from Duke. Darshan's the last man standing in a 3-on-1. He will be taken out, but how much time can he buy? The shield, the presence, the running for his life. There's no flash and no time. There's still super minions. The taxi comes up before the ace is secured by SKT.
CLG did manage to get a few kills here because SKT actually split up at first, fought on different fronts, but instead they made in the fight and now they're going for Nexus.
Nexus turret's already taking damage there and going down. Blank headed right in for it.
They're gonna finish it, don't worry.
Afro Moo's got 4 seconds. The Soraka by himself.
The Soraka wave clear. What's it gonna be?
Heal the Nexus.
SKT set their sights on the Nexus, and in 35 minutes, strike one in the best of 5 against Counterlogic Gaming.
Very, very classic SKT in the final fashion, I want to say, because game 1 always feels so close, and you're like, there's actually a chance they will lose this game. CLG came back in, they were even in goal, got the Baron, everything. But then we see SKT kind of slow it down, take the right team fight, finally not split up, win that team fight, and then they just kept going from there.
You guys have mentioned it, game after game for SKT, but the caution that they end out these games with. Playing the numbers game, the high percentage play.
I think just we saw a few things in the pick and ban phase, which we had some questions about. You know, what was he going to play now that Faker could always last pick a mid laner? He played the Echo, took it first, Flex picked it. On paper, it was smart. In game though, when you wanted to play that 1-3-1 style, it is so hard to pull off that Echo in team fights. And we saw him go in, try and get a stun, try and kill someone, but it was very hard for him. He needed those split up fights before we really saw who he do a whole lot.
Yeah, it didn't really work out for Counterlogic Gaming, but they dug very deep. They put on a strong performance despite the mishaps in the early game, and now we get to see how Counterlogic Gaming bounce back. How good is their mental fortitude? How likely are they to actually make the necessary adjustments in terms of play style coming into game 2, Kobe?
Yeah, they have some very clear things to look at in the early game that they have to clean up. That's going to be step 1 for them. SKT, though, showing why they're so heavily favored in this matchup and some pretty crisp execution there.
Sure, but I think CLG did show that some of these good calls that can make late game can punish SKT. So I would just love to see CLG come in and say, guys, we don't need to rush anything in the early game. We can play a standard, slow-paced early game because SKT likes to be very reactive. Fine, then let them be reactive. Don't be over-aggressive, get to this late-game stage, and then take the team fights.
And technically speaking, CLG actually came out ahead during the early stage. They got some of the first towers. They had a gold lead for a little while. The mid-game picks that, really hurt them was a bit of a problem. So we'll have to find out how they're going to bounce back as they ready themselves for game 2. But SKT, we saw a glimpse of them walking backstage. Big smiles. There's jubilation on their faces, and they don't seem as stressed or as worried or bothered by the outcome of game 1.
Yeah, CLG gave him a little mini heart attack in the mid-game there with some really good vision plays, but not quite enough to take it.
Yeah, not in game 1. We're going to head over to the analyst desk to break down just how SKT picked up the W.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. CLG giving SKT a little bit of a mini heart attack. Also gave us here on the desk a mini heart attack when we watched all of that unfold, and that's where we've got to start. The fact that the way that this game began, it went a lot longer and was a lot closer than it probably should have been.
It was a really disappointing opening, right? Like, Darshan has been giving up first blood in a lot of games, and there's a giant minion wave. Why is he trying to 1v1 Bang up here?
Yeah, and I always say, like, as the replay continues, and Afro actually put in a lot of work here, but then they overcommit to the play.
Yeah, we missed the start where Afro had a really solid invade. Like, he puts Blank behind, and then we have to question CLG's decision-making, because in the Nidalee versus Elise matchup, you already outpace. Afromu bought about 25-30 seconds that Smithy could use to clean his entire jungle and then path to the top side, get the enemy jungle, and then help Darshan. So all this pre-planning was there. It's like, no, we have to kill these guys right now or we lose the game.
Because Smithy started blue side. He could have cleared his red jungle and then done a late invade with a level advantage up there, and Darshan didn't have to give away the first blood. So, like, the level 1 theory at the very start of the theory was great. Fantastic. And then CLG made a bunch of mistakes. And I think that was just a microcosm for the whole game, because even in the draft phase, I loved the fact that CLG secured Soraka and Nidalee, because these two champions together ungate the healing of Soraka. She normally has to sacrifice health to heal people. Nidalee heals Soraka. Soraka gets to heal forever.
Yeah.
So when they went into these late game team fights and hard engaged over and over again, they didn't have to. And it was a game of things that CLG didn't have to do.
The pick and ban actually tells you a lot about this series. A lot of people say red side always has counter pick. Why are we even like putting Hui on blue side? But in a lot of these games, red side isn't being used anymore for a mid lane counter pick. So that argument kind of falls flat. In addition, it tells you the approach these teams want to take. We see the early Azir Ezreal pickup from SKT, very scaling. It's almost a race of like, you want to be passive? I can be more passive than you on next rotation. And that's why we end up playing the Soraka matchup. The cool thing I like what CLG did is also, I think what they did against TSM in the finals is they steal both Echo and Poppy when Maokai is banned, for example, and they pinch the top lane champion pool that way, going also for a very...
Said, though, Spawn, he just jumps at the Trundle, and...
This is my problem with it, right? Is we've already seen RNG try and pinch Duke's champion pool quite extensively, and they like reduced it down to where they were playing Rise top lane and things like this. And we've just seen that the double flex doesn't really work out in that favor, because when it does ultimately get to the team fighting, which MSI, like it or not, has resulted in, there's just a weakness there. So if you do it, you have to commit to your win conditions. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but never team fights. Keep 1-3-1. You can't use your teleports offensively ever. It always has to be reactive when they group up on you.
Yeah, but I do think they have a good team fight in terms of like, this is how CLG also won the series against TSM. They had Hui and Darshan with exquisite backline diving synergy, but it just never came to be because they fell behind for different reasons. I don't think this is necessarily a super bad team fight comp, especially if you factor in what Soraka can do with a silencing zone. Like, these three things combined can just blow up a single target. CLG needs to synergize as well, because if they overreach once, have one bad teleport, as we see in one of the later fights too, then they get punished.
All right, well, we'll get to that. I do want to take a look at a fight that may have given SKT that mini heart attack. As we see CLG on these screens right here, the question of mentality will also play in as well, Jab, when we get further into it. But this is the play that really kind of allowed CLG back in the game.
Exactly. Vision denial to a flash stun on Faker against the wall, and then 2 kills. And because they had the limitless healing we talked about, they could very easily pull into Baron. And like, that was the extension of after they'd already killed Faker once and got a couple kills at the Baron pit. So like, the way CLG was clawing back in this game made a lot of people hopeful, I'd imagine, because they made so many mistakes in this first game. And I do wonder, like they were saying on the caster desk, whether or not this is one of those times where SKT kind of softballs a little bit in the first game, doesn't do the optimal strategy, plays a little sloppy, and then closes out. Because CLG's not going to feel good about all the mistakes they made.
I really do think that play encapsulates why it's so hard to set up at MSI, because teams give you no chance to set up your vision the way they would in domestic tournaments right now. As soon as they see anyone enters that brush, they don't have actually much vision of the rest of the team, as you saw it there, but they just pull the trigger and go onto the mid lane and take out a key target. And I really think that, this is something that CLG learned off the RNG squad when they were punishing them on bot lane turret. If you can just go generate that first pick, like, the rest of the map then opens up and you can make the next step quite easily towards your game plan.
And now we have to push forward to the final fight of the game, in which CLG does make another error. You talk about TPs and being able to set up those flanks. Well, here they are, Darshan TPing very far back into the river after Stixxay takes a huge amount of chunk at the beginning of this fight.
He's desperately trying to clear this wave while CLG setting up for a TP play anyways. Why don't you let the wave hit the tower? You want them to walk forward and bait them. He walks into 2 or 3 soldiers, and then Darshan is now exposed because the biggest counter to a flank is Nami ulti one way and then engage on the other side of the flank. Really well executed by SKT overall here, but if you look at how close the fight ends, that major mistake at the start, this could have been a good opening, a good fight for CLG, but they overstep a little bit too early.
Decisiveness has been one of CLG's greatest strengths here, and they heavily decided to go in on that fight, but they needed to be able to pull back when Stixxay took 90% of his health, and Darshan's flank was spotted out by the pink ward that SKT had in their flanks. Like, that was an example of how SKT properly wards their flanks before a fight. The poke was great, and then the fact that CLG fully committed when they didn't have to was the game.
Yeah, and I have to say, I liked and I enjoyed watching Wolf play Nami. He was very aware of his surroundings, always had a good bubble ready. The fact that you can disengage, with this tidal wave, even if your backline gets dove by this Echo Poppy, and you can slow down whoever's following up. Combine that with the Azir. Nami Azir, really good zone in team fights.
I mean, SKT on his screens here, jump in, Spawn.
I just love the fact that SKT, like, they're the one team in the world that can pick non-engage and you still think they will win team fights, because they pressure certain objectives and then kite back with things like Nami, the Trundle, even the Azir, like, so flawlessly, and they leave themselves these big windows where they can be aggressive on neutrals, like, or turrets or something like that, but then still bait you into the team fight. So they are one of the few teams in the world that can pick non-engage and still play team fighting comps, because you can't really pull them around the map up all that much.
Well, a very unexpected way to get to an expected result in Game 1 here. Coming up, we'll see if Korea's SKT will extend their lead or if North America's Counterlogic Gaming can get the series to game, or can get a game of the series in Game 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We are on the rift. Game 1 in the best.
Jesus. English is...
We are on the rift for Game 1 in the best of 5.
Duke just sat bot lane, 1v1, Bang is in
look
trouble.
at this, Bang and Dashon
No,
going
got
to
minions.
The minion wave is going to help out, and Dashon gives up first blood. Faker's going to look for one before he goes down. The Barrel Exhaust is not going to be available, and Faker tries to get away. The shield comes out from Dashon, and the inhibitor stays standing.
One-on-one. Go, 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 go. Fucking good shit, baby. Yo, give me no pass. Dude, dragon, dude, bam. Nice, go there. I'm dashing. Nice. Bam.
Look at the slide, glide, divide. Faker split the fight, but nobody's gone down. Xmithy was golden from the hourglass. Blank jumps forward. 2 kills for SKT. SKT set their sights on the Nexus, and in 35 minutes, strike 1